We are so honored that you're here with us for Season 3.
We want to share, connect, and grow the paper flower community with you.
Welcome to Paper Talk.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Paper Talk. Today's episode is sponsored by our Patreon, Heather Carney. We appreciate your donation and we're excited to keep creating content for the paper flower community. If you're interested in supporting us, head over to our Patreon page at www.patreon.com/papertalk and sign up as a patron. We'd love to see you there.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Paper Talk. Today, we have Wendy Anderson of Just Imagine New Zealand Paper Florist with us. And Wendy's been with us, like we were saying, since the Paper Florist Facebook group was born.
Yes.
And she's been to practically, correct me if I'm wrong, practically every makers meeting.
Yeah.
She's contributing.
Three of us.
That's a lot, you guys.
That's a lot over the course of 3 years, right? 3 or 4 years.
4 years.
4 years, yeah. And not to mention, Wendy is in New Zealand.
Mm-hmm.
And the maker meetings take place at 9 a.m. Pacific time.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a significant time difference. So that just speaks to how committed you are. It's crazy. What time is that for you, Wendy?
So in the winter, it is 6 o'clock in the morning.
Oh, wow.
And in the summer, it's 4 o'clock in the morning. No,
Oh, my gosh.
The other way around. My apologies. In the winter for me, so this is your summer.
Yes.
Your summer, it is 6 o'clock in the morning. Summer is 4 o'clock in the morning.
Oh my goodness. It's a good thing you're a night owl, Wendy.
So I'll get up at 2 o'clock in the morning if I have to. I will.
Wow.
I've only missed 3 meetings in 4 years, and the paper community, our paper flower community, and those makers meetings, my most favorite online place to be.
Yay.
And it's got to be something big for me to miss it.
Thank
I'm
you
sure.
so much. Oh my gosh. It's been such a pleasure seeing your face pop up because sometimes we were able to see the recording and I just love it. Thank you so much for being one of our biggest supporters since the very beginning.
Yeah. Well, people like you, Wendy, who supported us, and obviously when I used to go to the meetings before my son was born, on Saturday afternoons, I remember the first couple of ones that I came to. I was like, who are all these people? But Wendy, you were always there.
Always.
And and just talking to you about paper flowers, different techniques. You were so open, and you still are so open to sharing your techniques and where you get your materials from. And you sent our members a package.
Yes.
One
thank
year
you so much.
Of paper flower. Paper. Sorry, crepe paper. The unique crepe paper that you get from New Zealand.
Yes, I did, because in New Zealand we get such terrible crepe paper. Honestly, it does not stretch, it rips. It has to be the Chinese, the absolute worst, finest crepe paper ever. It's like streamers you would use at a birthday party and just hang along in strips along a wall or something. It's just absolutely terrible. And I've learned that it's brilliant for carnations. There is a technique you can use for concertinaing it to make roses with, but it just does not hold. It's not robust enough to hold its form. So I've dealt with it for a wee while. And then I found out from you guys and through the group that there was better crepe paper out there. And so I started to import the different crepe papers, and now I just love them. The glue I used was different. A lot of you used tacky glue. I couldn't get that for a long time here in New Zealand. So I was using silicone glue. So when we were chatting in the very, very beginning, I remember talking to Susan and saying, well, what are these meetings about? And she said, we just get together and we have a chat. And I thought it was an online craft session and that we would actually be making flowers. And she says, oh, no, we're just going to sit and talk and get to know each other. And so I said to Jason, look, I really am quite nervous about this. I don't know what I'm getting myself in for with these meetings. But once I got there, and Susan made me feel so welcome, and she wanted to know what the time was and why I'd gotten up so early. And it's just blossomed from there. And I have such a passion for paper flower making. It is hard to shut me up.
We love that.
So then my brother has on and off over his married life. He's lived on and off in America, in California, for a lot of years. I think he's been home for 10 years in New Zealand, but the rest of the time he's been in California. So Dad was going for Christmas to America to visit my brother, and he was going to take Dad across to New York, and they were going to have Christmas in New York. And we were sitting talking, and I said to Dad, well, hey, wouldn't it be so funny if I was to send one of my friends in our paper flower group some New Zealand resources for making paper flowers. And I said, bamboo skewers, New Zealand crepe paper, my glue, all the things that you need to make either carnations or roses with my resources, and then challenge them to make them with what I have to deal with. And Dad looked at me and said, do you want me to? I can do that.
What a great dad.
I was just, wow, really? Would you do that for me? And he said, yeah. So I had to cut all the sheets of crepe paper in half, of course, to get them in his suitcase. But we had the competition in our group, and sadly, because it was America he was going to, I had to limit it to that country. So that was the only thing with that. But the winner was Ariana, and we had an online craft session, and we actually were online for 2 hours. We were talking so much.
Oh, I love that. I remember this. And she came back.
So much fun.
Yeah. She came back and just loved the time that she spent with you and got to know you.
Oh, it was great. We had so much fun, and we just talked and talked. And Jason said to me when I finished, he said, do you realise you were on there for 2 hours? And I said, what? It sounded like 5 minutes. She was so lovely. She was really neat. But I didn't just send a parcel to her. I sent one to Susan too, because I wanted to send one to one of the admins just so that you guys could see what it was like. So I sent one to Susan as well. And her craft session was much quicker, of course, because it was Christmas time and she had stuff to do. But I did show her how to make carnations, and that was a lot of fun too.
Oh, that's awesome. Oh, what fun.
I know. Wendy, how did your paper flower journey begin? I don't think I ever heard from you about how you actually started making paper flowers.
35 years ago, my mum was the organizer for Sunday school. She had to find activities for the young children, something to make and take home every Sunday. And she said to me, I found out how to make some paper flowers. They look like carnations, but I need someone with the little 5-year-olds. The older kids, yes, we've got leaders here that'll help, but I know you'll be patient with the little kids. Will you help me make carnations? So we just did it on what I call in New Zealand a twisty tie, which is just a plastic covered wire that you can use in your garden for tying back your tomatoes. And I made it on a twisty tie. It was from a box of tissues. We could get them here in pink and lemon, and there was blue and apricot, white. You could get them in all sorts of colours. Now you can only get white in New Zealand, but back then we could get tissues in all sorts of colours. And so I helped the children do that, and even now still do craft sessions with children, 5-year-old children, still teach them. But then my first job was in pharmacy, and I was a pharmacy assistant, and every year, annually, we would have what we call a spring fling, and there would be a big parade. We'd all dress up. There would be a certain theme every year, and because it was spring, I would cover our shop in carnations. They were everywhere, all over the special bins and the shelves and the stock. And it would take me a few weeks, but I would stand there between sales and I would make flowers, and I just covered the shop in them.
Oh, how fun. And so festive.
Yeah. And so I did that for years. So 35 years I've been making carnations. I got married and divorced. I got engaged, and unfortunately that relationship passed away. But then I met Jason, and Jason and I have been together for 14 years. And he literally, I know I've said this at our makers meetings before, he's literally my Superman. If I need to do something, I'll say today I need to get ready for this particular speaking engagement I've got this week. I've got to do some flower cutting out. I've got petals to make. I have to go and do this and that and the other thing, blah, blah, blah. I'll list off 10 things and now I say, now organize me.
What a perfect husband.
But the thing is, he actually, by trade, he actually is a chef. He's also a caregiver, as am I. So he actually has taken over the household. He's, as I've mentioned, he's the household manager. He cleans, he does the gardening, the lawns. He says to me, you've got a paid job. Get in that room and get making flowers. And he won't let me do a thing. So one day his sister said to him, hey, we've got a job coming up. Can you help us do a shifting move? So they've got a furniture removal company. And so he said, yep, I'll come and give you a lift. So he went up for the day and he said, look, I've got a small load of washing. Can you put that through for me? I stood looking at the washing machine. I had not put any washing through for 3 years. When the pandemic hit, I hadn't done any dishes for years, 3 years. And the pandemic hit, 3.5 years. And I didn't remember how to use the washing machine. I stood looking at the dishes and then all of a sudden I thought, oh, dishwashing liquid. I couldn't remember. I know it sounds crazy. It sounds really crazy, but I just haven't done it. He's just taken over everything to enable me to do what I do every day, and I couldn't do it without him.
Well, you guys sound like such a team.
Yeah, what a wonderful team.
To be honest, I think for anyone who's successful has great support behind them. You can't do it alone.
No.
Oh, absolutely no. You need this. The team is the support. Yes. And for me, that is Jason. I talk about my speaking engagements. They normally go for an hour. And what I'll do is I'll take some half-made carnations with me and I will speak and it will go for about an hour. I'll talk about how I became a paper florist and what I do. I have scraps of crepe paper. I have the New Zealand, I have the German, and I have the Italian. And I'll get Jason to pass them around the room and everyone them to try to stretch the paper. And as normal, New Zealand with the crepe paper rip and it's stretched a little bit, and then the Italian went for miles, and the wows on everyone's faces because they'd never seen that crepe paper before. They had no idea that's what we could do, how we could manipulate the paper to do different types of flowers. Yeah. So he would wander around the room and he'd be taking the scraps of paper, or we'd take containers and containers of flowers full of show and tell, and he would put them in vases and he would shake them from table to table and show them around. And now he will actually speak up and answer questions and say, I've seen Wendy make this, I've seen Wendy make that. Now, if she makes an Ecuador rose, from picking up the scissors to putting it in a vase, one rose can take her an hour and a half. And he says, no, this is what I see her doing. This is what I know she can do. And he even made roses with me one day out of New Zealand crepe paper back in the day. Yeah.
That's so awesome. Oh my gosh.
And so basically, I don't know if you remember way back, I did a wedding. It was an Egyptian wedding, so it wasn't a white wedding. And I did a wedding bouquet. And I'd sat there, it took me 2 weeks just to do the wedding. I sat up day and night. I didn't sleep much for those 2 weeks. And it got to doing the bouquet, and I'd been there doing them for hours and hours. I had all the elements ready to go. And I just sat there and I looked at the bouquet holder and I went blank. I went absolutely blank. And I just called out, Jason! And as per normal, he came running. And I said, I'm looking at these flowers. I'm looking at this bouquet holder and I've gone blank. I don't know what to do. And he says, well, what do you have to do to start? And I said, well, we need a base and we need to start and put some foliage in first. And so he said, okay, then well, let's do that. And then after a while he said, right, I want a rose here. And then I want one of those flowers there. And then we're going to put a pink one in here. No, that needs a bit more foliage in here. And the next thing, he was designing that bridal bouquet.
That's amazing.
It was amazing. Really, really amazing. So
I kind of had a feeling that he would have to be talented in some way or love it in some way in order for him to be so involved.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So even my speaking engagements afterwards, the ladies will come up to me and they want to talk one-on-one, and they'll say, look, I'm part of another group. Would you come and talk to this group? Or how do you do this? Or how do you do that? And they'll ask a question they've been too embarrassed to ask within the confines of the meeting. And the next thing I turn around and it's all packed up and he's ready to go. And I couldn't do it without him. He now knows how I like it set up. He now knows how to pack it up and bring it home. And the next thing it's all done. And I've turned around, it's all done, and he's away and ready to go. It's just, he's amazing.
I'm going to steal him. I need somebody like that.
And it's actually quite funny. At the end of my meetings, the biggest group I've had, actually, I do normally talk to about sometimes 15, 25 ladies in a group. The biggest group I've been to had 70 people, and they had me up on a stage with a microphone of all things. And he just was running from table to table, literally. And at the end of the meetings, I then say to them, would you like to know my dirty little secret? Well, everybody likes to know someone's dirty little secret. And I tell them about how I haven't done housework for 3 years or 3.5 years or how long it had been at that particular meeting. And they all look at me, and the person who gets up to say thank you for coming will say, Wendy, look, we're really sorry, but you're not allowed to take Jason home. We're going to take him home and we're going to have him come and do all our housework. So when I call him Superman, he is literally my Superman. He is. I mean, he's not perfect. Neither am I. In relationships, it's always, you both have to work at it, but we are a team in everything. And he's not perfect, but he's perfect for me. And that's all that we look at. That's all we look at. I mean, when he wants to do something, I support him too, absolutely, and do the things that he needs as well. But paper flower making has taken over in the last 4 years.
Can we talk about your beautiful art exhibit for the magnolia tree?
Oh, wow. Now, that was an amazing opportunity. This lady gave me a phone call and said that they have this art in the park every year, which I had helped with in the past. There's a group called the Pink Ladies, and they're for breast cancer. And their white gazebo a couple of years ago was pink with cardboard flowers that I had made. It just glowed pink because they were Pink Ladies, and they were selling all these craft items I'd made, and it was just incredible. Everyone else had a white gazebo but them, and I knew all about it. I knew that they raised money for the art in the park, crafting sections and what have you, but this time they had gotten the use of our old courthouse. It's used for normal events. People hire it out from the council. And she said, this year we want to put artists in there and have an art exhibition. But I don't want the Māori culture of New Zealand to take over. Whenever there is any art, the Māori culture do come in and they just say, right, we're going to do our thing. That's New Zealand is Māori, so we have to take over. Well, she said, no, not this year. This year, I want the unknown artists. So she got someone who was making ceramic eggs and had a case full of eggs. She got people that were wood turning. Someone made a wooden sailboat. It was huge. She had the spinners and turners who had lamb's wool, and they were spinning it and then knitting it or crocheting it into beautiful, beautiful garment. It wasn't just paintings. It was artwork of all types. Mm-hmm. And she came to me and said, it took me about 5 people until I finally found you. She said, nobody does what you do in our area. And I said, honestly, what I'm doing and the level of crafting I am now doing after 4 years, I don't think anyone in New Zealand is doing it. And if they are, I don't know about it. Mm-hmm. They do beginning crafting, yes, but they're not up there as a paper florist. In saying that, if someone out there in New Zealand is a paper florist, please let me know. I want to meet you. I want to have a companion in New Zealand.
Please do.
Yeah, absolutely. The art exhibition, this was an opportunity I couldn't miss. My speaking engagements gets me known around the local area, yes, through through my talking about what I do, but this was big for the community. And the lady came to visit me to see what I could do. And I pulled out all my containers of flowers and showed her what I'd made for Dad's archway for his birthday, the big double archway I'd done. And I said to her, look, this is what I can do, but I could do a single archway for you if they had smaller doorways. But really what I'd like to do is challenge myself. And I said to her, I'd like to try and make a magnolia tree. And she looked at me a bit weird and said, you mean like something little, in a tiny pot? And I'm going, no. I mean in a big planter, bigger than what you would buy in a nursery, something that's growing in someone's garden, but not huge, that's too hard to get down there. So we don't have a car. We walk everywhere. On shopping day, we carry our items from shop to shop and taxi home. So we had to fit this magnolia tree into a mobility taxi van. It had to be short enough to fit in the van and get all my gear down there, and we made it. We made it down there.
Mm-hmm.
And they had my archway in the main room with all the other art. They had the magnolia tree by the back door where the wheelchair access was. And just in the front main door, there was a little offshoot hallway where there was a couple of rooms. They gave me a room to myself. And in there, I could have a table with display items. I had some things for sale, and I sat with my little square card table and I demonstrated how to make carnations. And people would come in and just stand and talk to me, and they would watch what I was doing, and then I would pass them the made carnation and give it to them to take home with them. And so they would continue around the exhibition carrying my carnations.
And I love that. That's
it
so
was
sweet.
just incredible.
Yeah,
So
I wish you guys could see this magnolia tree, because right now we can actually see Wendy and her husband Jason, and the magnolia is right behind her. It's so beautiful.
It's stunning.
Oh, thank you guys. Thank you. So I went and saw a lady. There's a lady who lives in a couple of streets over from us, and she has a magnolia tree in her front garden. Mm-hmm. And I grabbed my phone and I went and started taking photos of it from the footpath. And she came to her window and she said to me, would you like to know what that tree is? And I looked up and I said, I do know. I know what it is. I said, I'm going to make it out of paper, and I'm just taking some photos because I'd like to really take this from nature. I don't want to copy anyone that's made a magnolia before. I want to do this from nature. And she sort of gave me this weird look and said, oh, okay then, and shut the window. So I came on home and I started to make things and what have you, started getting it together. By the time it came to putting it together, I said to my girlfriend, Catherine, come for a walk with me. And we walked around there and I took one of my business cards. I knocked on the door and I said to this lady, my name is Wendy Anderson. I am a paper florist. There's going to be an art exhibition in a couple of weeks, and I am making your magnolia tree to go in this art exhibition. You saw me a few months ago taking photos. Oh, yes, I remember, she says. And I said, I wondered if you'd mind if I could just step into your front yard and just get some more close-up shots. And she said to me, well, do you know that I have one in the backyard? And I said, oh, really? Do you? And she said, yes, it's a little bit bigger and it's got a few more buds on it. And I said, oh, well, because we were strangers, absolute strangers. I said, oh, well, shall we go around this back gate and go into the backyard? Oh, no, they're not going to go and unlock the gate. She says, come through the house. The next thing, the door's open wide and she takes me right through the house. We go out the other side. And while she's talking to my friend Catherine about something else in her garden, because Catherine's just absolutely amazing when it comes to gardening. So they go off and have their talk and I'm standing there taking photos of her tree in her backyard and getting some amazing shots. The only thing, it was only in bud. It was not in flower. And what I've done with this tree is I love making the different stages of growth. So even in our group, when we have our monthly challenges, I don't make a bloom. I make a branch so that you can get those different stages of growth. And that's what I've done with this tree. I've got little foliage. I've got medium foliage. I've got large foliage. I've got small blooms. I've got big blooms. I've got small buds. I've got large buds. I've got opening blooms. I mean, I wanted to get the whole aspect of the tree itself. And I
It's
did get a
amazing.
lot of help from
Yeah.
Susan Bond. She was absolutely amazing. She gave me some great tips. We had an online session and she gave me some great tips on doing the blooms. But I had the foliage done. The leaves were flat for quite a few weeks, and one day our niece turned up and I said to her, all I've got to do is start shaping those. And she said, well, would you like a hand? And I said, well, that would be amazing. And I said, right, here's these ones. This is what I want it to look like. Within 2 hours, we had them all shaped and ready to go.
Yay.
And I said to her, well, what are you doing on Thursday? And she says, oh, not much. My course is finished now. And I said, would you like to come down and help me set up my archway? Wow. One of the photos I've sent you, Jessie, was of our niece and I putting their archway together, and she'd never done it before. She had so much fun. Really is. And like anything, I'd done the archway before for my dad's 80th birthday. This archway, while it was smaller, it was better. So when we do our craft, the first flower, I sit and I laugh at it, absolutely laugh at it. And I put it in the fire. I make it again. The second one is always better. The third, the fourth, as you get on, you get better and better at it. It is practice and practice. And what she was doing in the end, by the time we'd finished my archway, she was giving me suggestions on what to do with it. And she'd never done anything like it before. But like normal, I could do that archway. I turned my back on the room that I had for myself, and Jason and Catherine, my friend, they set up the room for me. I knew I didn't have to worry about it. We'd discussed how I wanted the tables. We'd discussed where I wanted to have my sign with my shop name on it, where I wanted to sit to do my flower demonstration. And I knew Jason would do it. I just absolutely knew I could turn my back, I could do that archway. I knew the room would be the way I wanted it. And that's what happened.
What a wonderful support group that you have surrounding yourself. That is just amazing.
It's incredible. I guess I get it from my dad. Both Jason and I are problem solvers. We'll sit and we'll think about something until we work out the mechanics of how to do something. And so when Dad said to me, he didn't mind taking some paper flower supplies to America, that started everything actually. When it came to his 80th birthday, I said, I want to do an archway over a double door. He went away, he thought about it, he came back and he said, this is what I think we can do. And we did it. This time for the art exhibition, I said, I need to be able to do this on a smaller framework. I need to have another framework for my sign and have some flowers on that. He went away, he thought about it, he came back, he had the framework for me. All the mechanics were done by my 81-year-old father.
Wow.
That's amazing.
Can I ask you about the mechanics on your tree?
Thank you for joining us today for the first half of Wendy Anderson Paper Journey. Come back next week to listen to episode 74 and learn what kind of mechanics Wendy used for her amazing Magnolia life-size tree.
If you're looking for a way to support us, please hit subscribe and write us a review. We would appreciate it so much. You can also support us as a patron on patreon.com. Your contribution would help us continue to create great content for you and the paper flower community.